Namaste, everyone. In today's podcast, I'm going to tell you about the upcoming new moon, which is also going to be the partial solar eclipse in the early degrees of sidereal Virgo in Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra. Now, before we go to the interpretation of the meaning of that partial lunar eclipse, that very, very special new moon, just a reminder how unique and special is this part of the year in Vedic calendar. So this fortnight has just begun with total lunar eclipse preceding it. Right now, we are in the middle of Pitri Paksha, or the fortnight of the ancestors, which is the time for us to honor the past and at the same time let go of the past, to learn from the past, show gratitude to our past, as well as grieve over all of that we need to grieve for, and at the same time allow ourselves to move on in the same way how the trees right now in so many places in the world are dropping their leaves. We are simultaneously also reminded to also drop some of our luggage, some of our burden, and make more space for something new to come, for something new to be born. And the very convergence point between Pitri Paksha, the fortnight of letting go of our past, and the Devi Paksha or Navaratri, the fortnight of the goddess, the very convergence point between them is this upcoming new moon, the partial solar eclipse. That new moon is also known as Sarva Pitri Amavasya, the new moon of all ancestors. Naturally, this entire fortnight, since it is carrying so powerful ancestral energy, it's such a powerful time for all of us also to heal our own ancestral burdens, wounds, and karmas. And it's a powerful time to really heal and integrate the past. And this particular new moon, which comes at the very end of this Krishna Paksha or dark fortnight, it's usually such a powerful day in the year for us to allow ourselves to really find some closure, to find closure in any areas of our life that perhaps we didn't find it so far. Because when sun and moon meet together in the sign of Virgo, which is also the sign of purification, sign of removal of those things that perhaps are not necessary anymore. But at the same time, it is the time of reorganization and integration. So when we do experience new moon there, in Kanya Rashi, in sidereal Virgo, it is similarly the time for us to really ask this honest question: what are still some things in our life that are perhaps outdated and it's time for them to go? And how can we reach closure in those areas of life, in those relations that are already expired in some way, so that we can finally make for something new to be born? Because what comes always every year after Pitri Paksha or fortnight of the ancestors is the fortnight of the goddess. It's a symbolic rebirth of the goddess. Actually, first day after that particular new moon is considered to be the symbolic rebirth of the goddess, when moon, who represents feminine energy after disappearing into the sun, just gradually reappears. It's also the birth or Shakti of our power of manifestation into this world, which makes so much sense with Kanya Rashi in particular, because Kanya means just a girl. That's the sign of Virgo. But the thing is that always, just before the beginning of Navaratri, we have this new moon in Kanya Rashi, which tells us that this girl is not just a girl, it's the goddess. It is the sign of the goddess. Therefore, every year, that particular new moon is so important, because that particular new moon where Perhaps, sometimes lots of things from our past come to the surface, but during this new moon, we have time to really reach some closure in so many areas of life. So it's a very, very important time of the year. It's very, very important time of the year for personal transformation too. Because this year in particular, we have this period of Pitri Paksha surrounded by 2 eclipses, which just precedes the Navaratri period, the 9 nights of the Divine Mother. And you see, it's very interesting, this particular degree where Sun and Moon are going to meet together this year in the sign of Virgo. The 4th degree, closer to 5th already, also maps in the D20 chart of our spiritual progress, known as Vimshamsha chart, to the Amsha of a very specific aspect of Divine Mother, called Pishachini. Pishachini literally means the goddess of the ghosts. And it's so interesting because, of course, goddess in that form comes into our lives to sometimes bring some ghosts from the past back into our lives so that we may confront them, heal them, integrate them. But at the same time, she reminds us that those very difficult energies that we might have experienced in the past, maybe even those traumatic experiences, even though they might be holding, so much suffering, there might be so much shame or even disgust or fear connected to them. Even those experiences usually brought something very precious into our lives, even if not always very directly. And that's actually the beauty, of Divine Mother in this form as Pishachini. She is sometimes addressed also as aspect of Mother Matangi, who is the goddess of remnants, who is the goddess of taking all that is impure and find beauty and wisdom in it. Find ways, how can we take those things which are seemingly impure, those parts of ourselves that are exiled and unwelcome, how can we take even them and transmute them into something either creative or beautiful? How can we transmute them into knowledge that actually propels us on our spiritual path and helps us move forward rather than just holding us back and sabotaging us? And that's the beauty of personal growth. That's the beauty of spiritual growth. If we truly want to evolve, we can't just keep running away from the past. We can't keep dwelling on the past either. But we are supposed to find a way to integrate the past experiences in such a way that we feel whole again, that we don't feel fragmented anymore, that we feel that it's safe to be whole again, and it's safe also to be the part of a greater whole, of a greater collective. And of course, those are not very easy topics, and it's not a very easy new moon or very easy solar eclipse either. But I do believe that it is the eclipse that holds so much potential for that inner integration to happen. Because as Sun and Moon will be meeting together in the sign of Virgo, very close to them, very close to the Sun, will be still this Mercury in exaltation, who will be still combusted by the Sun. Yet regardless, Mercury in exaltation can often really help us make sense out of the chaos, can help us truly integrate some of our difficult experiences. The only danger, of Mercury being combusted and so, close to the Sun and exalted at the same time is that sometimes we may by mistake think that we can just think our ways out of our problems, that we can just intellectualize it and somehow integration will happen as a result of it. Which is, of course, never the way it works. We always need to allow ourselves to really embody and feel what's inside of us before we are truly ready to let it go. We must allow those unheard parts of ourselves to actually speak out. And this is something that I believe is a true potential of this upcoming new moon. Because it is a new moon that inspires us to really bring the past and at the same time present potential and future potential together. Because that's what these two fortnights are about at the end of the day. Pitri Paksha is the fortnight of the past and everything that is in the past and how past influenced and shaped us. While Navaratri or Devi Paksha, the fortnight of the goddess, is everything that we can become, the divine potential inside of us. And how beautiful it is that Devi Paksha, or fortnight of the goddess, comes always after Pitri Paksha, because we can't really live up to our potential unless we have integrated the past. There's always the right order for those things to happen. So I do believe that it's going to be, spiritually speaking, a very, very powerful period. Since it's only a partial solar eclipse, it very likely is not going to be as fierce as well. We might still experience mild irritation as we will be moving closer to that new moon, to that solar eclipse, which is going to take place on 21st September, because still Moon, Sun, and Mercury, all together in the sign of Virgo, they will be experiencing a mild Papakartari Yoga squeezed in between Mars and Ketu in the sky. So there might be a degree of frustration coming to the surface, degree even of anger, because sign of Virgo, its shadow side, it's said to be Krodha, which is anger or frustration. So those things may still appear. But if we allow ourselves to really be the witness to all those different emotions that may come to the surface, rather than trying to intellectualize them, rather than trying to resist them or suppress them or overexpress them, just being the witness is what can be sometimes the most powerful, the most helpful, and the most healing. Not without the reason, the most important healing sign, which is the sign of Virgo, is ruled by Mercury, who is the planet of equanimity, the planet of not being too agitated by too much or too little, the power of finding this middle balanced way, because this is where often true healing can happen, when we just allow ourselves to be the witness. So having said all of that, I do hope that this entire fortnight that we are in right now, the Pitri Paksha, will prove to be a very healing time for all of you. Traditionally, it is considered to be a very powerful time to increase our efforts in our spiritual practice, because as we advance spiritually, even our ancestors who are still living inside of us, who are still part of us, even they benefit from this increased spiritual effort in this time period. So it's a beautiful time to withdraw from the world a little bit, to engage less with everything in the outside, to postpone any important decisions too. Because eclipse time and Pitri Paksha time, it's not time to act in the outside. It's not time to make big decisions in the outside. It's time to turn within and take time for yourself and for your spiritual practice. So I wish you a beautiful upcoming new moon and a partial solar eclipse. Namaste.